Welcome to the Talk Like a Leader podcast, where we explore the mindset, skill set, and habit set of leadership communication. Using these tips, techniques, and tactics, you'll be able to talk like a leader to build better relationships and get more done. Your host is Guy Harris, who has more than 20 years of combined professional and military experience in consulting, coaching, and training in areas like team and interaction dynamics, communication strategies and tactics, as well as emotional intelligence. Take it away, Guy.
This is Guy Harris. Welcome to the Talk Like a Leader podcast. This week's episode is titled, Not All Feedback is Negative. I like to address a common challenge I think many of us face, I know I face, is this idea of assuming that feedback has a negative character. We have a common perception that when feedback is offered, it's negative. Just for example, consider this scenario. Let's say that you and I are having a conversation and I say something like this. Can I give you some feedback? Now the question is, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? Do you assume it's positive, or do you assume I'm about to tell you something you did wrong? Well, if you're like me, and if you're like most people, you probably assume I'm about to tell you what you did wrong, or I'm going to give you some sort of corrective comment. Probably not assuming that I'm going to be encouraging. And while it's true that I teach and talk about the idea that you can give positive feedback. In fact, not all feedback has to be negative. Probably on a conscious sort of intellectual level, we all realize that not all feedback is negative. It's just that for whatever reason, cultural upbringing, past experiences, the way other people have interacted with us, I can't honestly say I know for sure what drives this. I can just say that there's this very strong negative connotation to the word feedback. In fact, even though I talk about this a lot, I've given other podcast episodes that talk about this general idea of trying to provide positive feedback to people. Recently, I had an experience with my friend, partner, colleague, Kevin Eikenberry, and he asked for feedback about something. Now, the situation is that he had been leading a virtual leadership conference. It was a week-long conference. And I don't remember exactly where it was during the week. It was maybe day 3. And he and I were talking. I had listened in to several of the episodes. And he said, "How's it going? Do you have any feedback for me?" And I said, "No, it was good." And here's the challenge. Because I said no, what that says is that at a subconscious level, even though I intellectually realize that not all feedback is negative, when he asked the question, "Do you have any feedback for me?" I said, "No, it was good." There's an implication in my statement that I'm thinking feedback is a negative thing. Oh, this is so frustrating. For a person who works on this all the time, I still carry this negative connotation in my head. Okay, here's the problem with that. When we believe, even unconsciously, that feedback is equated to telling people what they did wrong or what they can correct or what they can improve, we carry this kind of bad or negative flavor to the word feedback, which because it's operating at a subconscious level, we can be kind of on the lookout for bad things so that we can correct them, rather than on the lookout for good things so we can reinforce them. And when you think about human behavior, it's an interesting thought. It's kind of funny. We try to stop bad behaviors rather than encourage good ones. Don't honestly know why we do that either. I think we do. And if you're really logical about it and think through the process, you actually can't stop a bad behavior. You can really only replace it with a good one. And I put bad and good in quotation marks here. It's a shorthand way of talking about behaviors we either like or don't like, that are either effective or not effective, that are successful or not successful. So bad and good for our purposes today are sort of shorthand for those kind of things. So you can't actually stop a bad behavior. You can only replace it with a good one. So if we think really hard about this idea, the best way to get more good behaviors is to reinforce them so people will do more of them and to know what good looks like, rather than try to stop bad behaviors so they'll do less of them. Because if you spend more of your day doing good behaviors, you'll by definition do less bad ones. Okay, so the idea here is that it's better to reinforce the, quote, good behaviors so we get more of them than it is to comment on the bad behaviors in order to get less of those. An important point here. I am not suggesting that we ignore these, quote, bad behaviors. I'm not suggesting that we don't comment on them and try to correct them and help people do better or to replace the bad behaviors with good behaviors. I'm not suggesting ignoring bad behaviors. What I'm suggesting is that our predisposition to be on the lookout for bad probably means we'll see those anyway. I don't think we need any conscious effort to look for those. I think we do need conscious effort to be on the lookout for good behaviors. So we're probably going to notice the bad easy enough. We need to bring top of mind the idea of looking for good. We need to be looking for ways to encourage other people to do better, to call out when people do well, rather than only when they do bad. And I think about a situation where someone has noticed something you've done well and they made specific, positive, encouraging comment about that behavior or that action or that result. Did it help you feel motivated and engaged and inspired to do more of it? I don't know for sure. I'm guessing it probably did. And think about what that does for others. And think about a world where most of us, including me, who is working consciously to stay on the positive side, I subconsciously carry this perspective that feedback equals negative. If you ask me in a conversation if I believe that's true, no, I would not say that. I just have to say that my behaviors speak otherwise. So as we go forward, the idea that I'd like to leave you with today is not all feedback is negative. You can actually be looking for good things. You can call them out. You can point them out. You can be as specific and as timely in your positive feedback as you are in your negative feedback. I think it probably takes more effort to be on the positive side to overcome a negativity bias that so many people have. Maybe you don't have it. A lot of people do. And so what I'm going to ask you to do this week is I'm going to ask you to challenge your assumptions. When you think about providing feedback to others, do you take the good things they do, the positive results they get, as the way it should be, and offer no real reinforcement or comment, encouragement to them for having done something well? And do you only really notice the bad things so that you can correct them? Or do you try to take a balanced view so you're on the lookout for good things that you can reinforce and prepared to address the bad things when necessary? Now, what I think is probably true, if you'll be more on the lookout for good and reinforce those, you'll have to spend less time talking about the bad. So if you'll do that this week, if you'll be on the lookout for good things and be as specific and as timely and as encouraging for the good things as we all tend to be specific and timely and negative for the bad things, you can talk like a leader. This has been the Talk Like a Leader podcast. You can listen to this show every week wherever you get your podcast. If you haven't, be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. I'm Guy Harris, and thanks for listening.